All right, good morning, guys. Good morning. Welcome into another video. I did want to just go over the morning session. I did not record the whole morning session because it would have been very, very boring and a long video. Nearly 3 hours. We haven't really done much in the market today, as expected, given that we have a big news driver coming out tomorrow, right? So I'm not going to be trading at all tomorrow. I never trade FOMC, just take the day off. But here are the two trades we took today. We did take this one on Top Step as well, and we did not take this one on Top Step. So this one was just on the live to try to recuperate a loss. I didn't want to end red on Top Step more or double the loss on it. So I just left it as a small loss and then called it a day on Top Step. But on my live account, I did give it one more shot, and it was here. I was pretty bullish coming into the day today. This is how we kind of were aiming for. We were aiming for these relative highs here on ES, and then the unmitigated PDA right here. So on NQ, we're actually moving a little bit slower on NQ at first, right? We were up here, down here, while ES is already at the target. And so we still had these targets to aim for on NQ. So I'll go over those trades right now. But that being said, on the daily, we also had the order block we were still respecting. So I was also expecting higher prices. Right off open, we just continued to rip almost towards the target, right, on ES for the final target. And then the final target would be the SIBI. We do take this sell buy side here, and then we start displacing lower, but we end up going into this chop fest here, which I'm not interested in anything, but I do like how we are respecting this order block here, and we displace out of here. I believe in here there was a setup that I was interested at 1050. So let's go and look at 1054 right here. So at 1054 right here, this candle closes. I really like this, but I did not enter on the inverse. I had my order right here. So I quite literally didn't get filled by a few points, and then market just goes to straight target, which would have been these highs and then the ultimate high. I would have left a runner for the SIBI, probably would have got stopped out break even, and I definitely would have. I probably would have trailed my stop though below these lows, and then it would have came close, almost worked out again, probably trailed my stop there, and then it would have got stopped out break even. So at the end of the day, this trade would have been really, really good. This is probably the best trade I wanted to take today, but I did not get filled again because I put a limit order. This is considered a close proximity entry, so I should have bought this at market, but I didn't. But again, I'm not upset at this because it did come into the inverse. I just didn't notice it in time that I didn't buy this because technically my limit should have been at the inverse there. And this is permissible for it to be a breakaway gap if it, like it did here. So as we expand, this is maintaining my bullish bias. I still have this as the target, right? As the final target, even though we already swept this trade is a little bit less probability, but if we're going to continue to push higher for bullish price into an area where we can reject it, it makes sense for us to reject, then that SIBI is still in play. And as soon as we have this displacement out of here, which comes off of here, right? We have this 5-minute fair value gap here. Inverse it. We reclaim the 5-minute fair value gap. I'm interested in entering here. So not the worst trade. I do like it. I do like the follow through with this candle. So we come in, get tapped there, and then I add more at this order block here, and then my stop is below the low, gets stopped out, and then price eventually works his way back up. This is just mentally draining, and then we never get to the target here at least, or here, right? Then we continue to break down. We'll go back to the 5-minute. I'm not really looking for anything short. I am paying attention to this order block here and seeing how we react. Notice how here we had a really good reaction at 1220. I was contemplating entering here, but I did not, just because I wanted to see this 5-minute inverse first, because we did have a 5-minute PD array that can push us lower. So I didn't want to just go against that and then completely, this would be a low probability long. Because we have already been chopping around. Yes, we did sweep this liquidity and we're coming off the order block, which makes sense. But if this candle would have ended up green or perhaps not creating a 5-minute, I would have definitely been in that. But since we had this candle not really give us some clear direction, I did not go in. I just stayed on the sidelines. Then we break down. That trade would have not worked out if we would have went in that. And then we create another 5-minute, which then we get really close to this low, we create relative lows, we come back in, and then we're just chopping around in here, right? If you're bearish, I don't really even see an entry here, really, for me. but I do like these lows here internally to get swept and then see if we can push higher into these relative highs, right? But who knows? I did end up taking this trade over here on NQ, which got stopped out break even, but I did take a partial. So I'll show you guys, we're coming off this breaker here. And it's a very similar setup to what we had over here with the S. The only thing is that I did like how we dug into this order block here, right? We dug into the order block nicely, breaker, fair value gap, and then we're coming off this order block, right? We displaced nicely. So from there, I do like this 1 minute entry. It's very clear. I like the displacement, the follow through, the closure above here, this last high. We come back into it, and then my stop is simply below this low. And we start displacing out of here, which is great. I do want to see this target met rather quickly. I did take a partial here because this is when we tapped into here with ES. Right there, right? Notice how that lines up right there with that. So I took a partial because we can reject from here. And sure enough, we did. I moved my stop to break even, made this a risk-free trade, and just recuperating some of my loss. And then from there, I'm just not really interested in this type of price action. The AM session is pretty much over. I did say I was only going to trade the AM session and not the PM. PM is going to start right now in like 20 minutes. But again, I'm not interested to see anything else, given that it can be very low probability ahead of a big news event. So I rather just take my small loss, move on to the sideline. So the last 2 days have been pretty small losses, which I'm proud of. And then we'll come back Thursday and Friday. Thursday, I aim to trade, and Friday as well. Friday is no news, so I'll be a little cautious. So Thursday is going to be my major focus for the week, and see if I can get a good opportunity. Once it presents itself, I'll take it. But yeah, so I just got to get a little bit better with my close proximity entries, kind of like we discussed here, right? This is a beautiful trade, beautiful trade, textbook, everything I'm looking for. But again, I put my limit order, so my limit was like around here. So, and then my stop was below here, and then I was targeting the highs, which is these, and then the ultimate highs. So this would have been a really nice trade. It came very close to filling it, and then it just left. It is what it is. This is where I need to be buying at market at least half of my position. So if it's going to be 5 or 10 micros, buy half of that position size, depending on the risk, and then add the rest once it comes into this area. This is how I can avoid trades just leaving me, right? And that's what I'm trying to engrave into my system, to be able to allow myself close proximity entries. Because realistically, let's look at that example with 5 micros again. Not sell, buy. Let's look at the example with 5 micros. Your stop loss is here. You're risking around 137. That's totally fine. But if we do the close proximity entry, which is at the inverse, or just buy at market as soon as this candle closes at 54, let's say you get filled around there. It's a few extra dollars, but it's not bad, right? And you don't have to do your full position. Let's say you're doing 5 micros. Let's say we only do 3, right? And then we add the other 2 if it comes into here, which these 2 would have never got filled. And that way, at least you're still participating in your trade, right? And you're aiming for your 1 to 2, or you're moving your stop to break even after a 1 to 1. But yeah, that's pretty much today. I did want to do a quick review, not too long of a video. I aimed to keep it under 10 minutes. I didn't want to bore you guys with a long-winded video of just absolutely nothing. I'm really just waiting, and it's a pretty quiet video. There's not much other insight than just me just reading out price, which understand that these conditions in December, the price action tends to be a little bit tougher. The volume is dead. Stops are smaller, but sometimes we get this type of price action, especially ahead of a big news event. So be cautious for tomorrow. If you're trading, don't be a degenerate. Don't trade tomorrow. Just take the day off and enjoy the day off. But if you will, and you insist, trade after 2 p.m. New York time, right? So for example, right now, our time would be 11. You would have to wait for the news driver to come out, and then you can start seeing if you can seek something. But again, I would not trade during this time. 2:30, you have the press conference. Just take it off. So notice how we swept this liquidity here now internally. Now I can expect some move higher. We can tap into this unmitigated 5. But again, I'm done for the day. I'm not interested. I'll just come back later after market closes, and then I'll just tape read this. Even if there is a setup, the conditions, them being low probability, I'd rather not put more risk on the table. I'll take my small loss and move on. We're doing great for the week. Remember, trading is not just all about winning, but it's about your losses, maintaining them small and ensuring that you actually learn something from those losses, right? And the main takeaway for the last 2 weeks has been close proximity entries that I tend to miss out on because I put limit orders. That's something I've been paying attention to my trading a lot. So just trying to be as transparent as reflective as possible and aiming to get better. So we'll see. But thank you guys for tuning in. And if I make another video Thursday, more than likely expect another video. Tomorrow, I'm just going to take it off and just go enjoy the day, work on some other things. But have a great day, guys. Take care.